slight tardiness. I appreciate your patience. We're going to go ahead and bring us to order at 8:37. Let's stand and please say the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at our April 15th finance meeting minutes? Okay, any changes needed to be made? If those are all good, I'd like to move for an approval of those minutes.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is this a voice or voice? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. May 31st, we are going to take a peek at what has happened last month. We've got quite a few things to discuss, a lot of the same trends that we have already seen. Mr. Walker's going to go through those for us today.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Clark.
Welcome.
And I guess my screen, Natalie, is just showing the room. There we go.
It's funny, these.
All right, we're ready to roll. Thanks, Natalie. Well, no, maybe not.
It's funny, these are on a delay. You guys have it? You just don't have it?
We have the Metro logo.
Oh,
Well-
everybody else has it, but you.
It's coming.
The guy who needs it.
Eric's gonna-
Here we
it
are.
goes.
All right. Oh, no. We're back. That's okay.
The laptop,
We're
too?
fine. We'll fine. We'll go. No, I'm okay. No, that's fine, Dan. All right, we'll get started here, and I guess, Bill, you kind of look at there. When we look at the month here, our total revenue came in at $14.1 million, which was unfavorable to budget by about $639,000. And that was primarily driven by lower fare revenue and an unfavorable variance slightly for sales tax, which we'll go into more details in a little bit, which was offset. Here we are. It's back. It's up here now, Natalie. And it's offset slightly by the CPS, positive CPS revenue. Looking at our expenses, they came in at $13.4 million for the month, which was favorable or less than what we had budgeted by almost $360,000. And that was favorable primarily with our wages and benefits, which we've talked about, the vacancy percentage we have, and then the change in accounting slightly for workers' comp and medical expenses. And that was offset by by wages. The wages were positive or less than budget, and it was offset by maintenance and advertising. You net those two numbers together, and it's a $700,000 operating capital contribution or surplus profit, however you want to look at that, which was slightly unfavorable to the budget by about $280,000. The ridership of $1.16 million for the month was $134,000 less than what we had budgeted, and there'll be more details on that in our ridership report here coming up in a little bit. Going into some specific details on the revenue side, as I mentioned, the total operating revenue came in at $1.8 million, which was less than $280,000 less than the budget. And as I mentioned, that was the fare revenue offset by the CPS. Non-transportation was favorable or greater than what we'd budgeted, primarily driven by the investment income. That was a little greater than what we had expected. The sales tax, I had mentioned before, that was $377,000 less than budget, but it was greater than last year. So we have some more details on that coming up on the sales tax slide. Grants came in right on budget. Going down to the expenses, we've kind of hit on the highlights there. Wages and benefits I'd mentioned primarily with our vacancy percentage and the change in accounting for certain benefits. Fuel and lubricants came in right on budget. Parts and supplies were a little unfavorable. And then the all other, that variance was driven by the timing of our advertising spend. Next page, Natalie. We've gone through the details on the monthly basis. Those are on the left side. You can see there's some red, but at the bottom for the month, we talked about the $700,000 operating capital contribution. Going to the right side, which when we look at the budget on a monthly basis or on a year-to-date basis, there's going to be some timing there. So it's really good to look at it on a year-to-date basis as well, since the budget is estimates and assumptions, and there could be some timing differences there. But looking at on the revenue side, the total revenue line of $68.5 million for the year, you can see that's slightly less than our budget of 69.7, so 1.7% less than the budget. But go to the right side, you can see that last year we were at $64.5 million year to date for the total revenue. And so right now, this year, we're about $4 million greater than last year, so call that 6.2%. Going down to the expenses, same type of trending other than the other way. So when we look year to date, you can see we're about 3% less than what we had budgeted on our expenses. And year to date, that is 5.5% less. So you know, we're still positive to last year when you look at our trending. We're spending more, but we're spending less than what our revenue has increased, which is always a good number. Next page, Natalie. Here's our standard sales tax slide. You can see coming up the first 2 months have the actuals. The next 3 months we book those to the budget number until we get the actual figures from the state. And looking at the first 2 months, we're about 2.8% greater than we were last year. Slightly under budget, but nothing we can't manage. But again, looking at a favorable trend compared to last year of, call it 2.8%. Next page, Natalie. This is our standard view of our cash and investment position on the operating side. We're at, call it $166 million. And as we all know, we don't have $166 million that we can all go spend tomorrow. And so we lay out what we have obligations for, not just for 2025, but for the other years. And you can see we have ample funds when you include our surplus we expect for the rest of the year to pay for the obligations we have with the funds that we have in place. And that's all I have on this side. Any questions for me?
I do have one question.
Yes, Ms. Clark.
I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
It's not necessarily pertaining exactly to this slide, but with the fare increase, do we know exactly where we're planning on allocating it?
So the fare increase, we have that. It would go into the fare revenue piece. Okay. It's going to hit all three lines, fixed route, access, and metro. And we have that going in place July 16th at 2 a.m. Okay. So you probably we won't see much of an impact in July, but we'll start seeing that impact. And that was budgeted, Ms. Clark.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Our audit finance report. Ms. Crow, thank you.
Good morning. All right, well, thank you for having me here today. I'm here to present on the audit for fiscal year ended December 31st, 2024. And here's the agenda that I'd like to go over today. Just some background on the audit itself, the audit progress, the scope, the deliverables, where we saw some significant risks this year, which is similar to auditing standards and encompassed within that. And then finish up with the financial statement discussion and the required communications for the fiscal year. So we'll go ahead and start with our team. And the team is very similar to the prior year. Again, my name is Christine Torres. I'm the signing partner from Crow. Happy to be here again to walk you through the audit results. Our audit manager remained the same with Stacy, and then we did bring in on a new senior staff due to Stacy moving up from senior to manager. So Russell was new to the engagement this year, but has experience in other transit districts as well. When we go ahead and we move to the next slide, we have just a quick recap of the roles and responsibilities during the audit process. So we're here today to talk to this committee to talk about all the different things that go into the audit, as well as give you the oversight responsibility and reporting in line with the financial statements. Management is in charge of preparing those financial statements and making sure the proper internal controls are in place throughout the audit process and throughout the year to make sure everything is reported properly and the right procedures are being followed. And then what we do is we come in and audit all this information. So we're verifying that everything that management has put into place is working as it should. and then also that all the amounts that are presented in the financial statements are materially correct, and then reporting back to this committee here are results of that process. Quick high level, our engagement objectives here is to express an opinion on the financial statements. We do follow auditing standards here issued in the United States. We do also include within our audit the requirements of government auditing standards, which is really making sure that you have the right internal controls to prepare your financial statements and that those are being followed. Because you do receive a large amount of federal money, that is what is triggering that requirement to happen, as well as the state of Ohio. So within our audit, we're looking at the financial statements, and we're making sure that they're materially correct. We do not audit every transaction, as that would be way too much, but we do a variety of transactions. So we look at material amounts as well as non-material amounts as we go through the process and gain an understanding of controls. On our next slide, we talk a little bit here about that scope and deliverables, where we are responsible for the independent auditor's opinions, both for the financial statements as well as the opinions that go within the single audit, where we're testing compliance to make sure you are in compliance with all grant agreements, as well as the proper controls to make sure that compliance is happening. A little bit about our approach. Our approach is continuously changing. We begin with a planning, with understanding with management what has happened throughout the fiscal year, looking at any available information, which includes reading board minutes, understanding what internal audit has done throughout the period, and if there's any other external reviews or significant transactions that we need to be aware of. From that, we develop our audit plan, which includes, as well as looking at not only what the financial statements are going to have for the fiscal year, also what grants you have received, and if there's any changes in your IT controls or systems to make sure that we're understanding that, as well as what's happening on the financial end. We identify where we believe the significant or key accounts are, and those are the areas that we perform our objectives around. During this past fiscal year, that includes grant revenue, although not quite to the extent that you've had in the past with the decrease of the COVID funding, but you still do receive quite a bit of federal funding. The sales and use taxes, with that being a significant amount on your financial statements, as well as the capital assets because of all the capital grants that are being spent to make sure that those expenditures are being properly capitalized and depreciated over time. The pension and OPEB liabilities are also areas that are significant in amounts to your financial statements, and although you do not have a direct impact on those amounts and the assumptions on how those amounts are calculated, it is something that we take a look at to make sure the proper allocations are being reported on your financial statements. And then finally, management override of controls. So making sure we understand any type of information and how those are could be affected. A little bit about our timeline. We can begin back in the November and December timeframe, and that's where we're meeting with management, understanding the transactions for the year, and developing the audit plan, as well as doing some interim testing, mainly over the single audit and the compliance portions. We come back in the March and April timeframe once the books are beginning to close and the year-end balances are obtained, so we can do our testing over that. And then finishing up here once we get the financial statements, so we can tie out all the testing that we did to the final amounts and making sure that any new pronouncements are included within those financial statements and are properly represented. We then finalize the financials to make sure that we meet all reporting requirements that you are held to by both the state and the federal government. On our next slide here, we have some significant risks, and significant risks are required to be outlined by auditing standards, and these first two are required in the standards. One relates to revenue recognition, and the second relates to the implementation of controls when there's potential management override. So what we do is we perform additional procedures over both of these areas to make sure you're recognizing revenue in the proper fiscal year and have the proper support. and that any ways that management could override controls are properly identified and have controls in place. During this fiscal year, we did have one additional significant risk, and that's really due to the implementation of a new standard, which is related to GASB 101, compensated absences. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we continue on through the presentation. On the next slide here, just to recap, that materiality is something that we take a look at and reassess every year, and as we go through the audit and get updated financial statement numbers. We're taking both a qualitative and a quantitative approach, so we're looking at what's happening in the organization as well as what the dollar amounts are on the financial statements. On our next slide, we have just a few other things that when we take a look at the financial statements that we're taking into account. So we're following up on any findings from the previous year. We're gaining an understanding of the tone of the organization while we're here and looking at what policies and procedures you have in place in regards to ethics and proper reporting. We're understanding if there's been any violations or non-compliance with laws, regulations, as well as what significant unusual transactions may have occurred. When we take all of this together, we form our audit plan and develop our procedures. And then on the next slide here, we also take into account any indications or any concerns where we feel like there might be fraud. We did not have anything here as we went through our audit process that came to the attention that we believe would be fraud, but it is something that as we perform our procedures, we're always on the lookout. If anything had come up, we would have brought it directly to the Finance Committee for your attention. And then on our next slide here, I'm just going to touch a little bit here about the final financial statement numbers. They're a little bit different from what you see on a monthly basis because what we have here is all the final accruals encapsulated for the year, as well as some non-cash entries around capital assets, around leases and subscription liabilities that you don't really see on a day-to-day monthly basis because they are really year-end entries. So when we take a look at the amounts, we can see that when we're looking at a year-over-year basis, current assets increased by about $410,000 from the previous year, and that's really driven by an increase in the sales and use tax receivable and prepaids, which offset a decrease in investments. And as Tim just went over, you can see how that sales and use tax has been increasing month over month from the prior year. The sales and use tax receivable increased by approximately $1.6 million, just really due to that increase in that monthly payments. And prepaids increased by about $800,000 due to new agreements that were signed at the end of the fiscal year, but will be used over the coming fiscal years. All of that was offset by a decrease of investments of about $3.1. When we look at our capital asset line item here, we can see that increased by about $1.7 million, or $17 million, due to a significant number of bus purchases in the prior year. Your last fiscal year had a significant increase in bus purchases, really due to capital grants that were funding those purchases. When we take a look here at the non-current asset line item, or the other non-current assets, you can see that that increased by about $22 million. And that's really driven by an increase of investments of about $18 million that were reclassified from current to non-current, just based on their subject matter and the length of time they're being held. So on our next slide here, we are also taking a look here at the net position where we look at year over year, and you can see that that increased. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we go through the different revenues and expenses and the changes in those for the fiscal year. Another thing that I just wanted to mention as we go through the current liabilities here is that you'll see they decreased at the end of fiscal year 2024, the current liabilities, by about $8 million. And that's really due to payments being made quickly on outstanding payables. And really at the end of last year, you had quite a bit related to capital assets at the end of the fiscal year, and that was not repeated in the current year. Non-current liabilities, you can see here, also had a significant decrease, and most of that was due to a decrease in the net pension liability of about $9 million. And again, as I mentioned, a lot of that is due to assumptions and items that the pension plan is doing, nothing that can be controlled here. But based on that return of investments for the year, it was pretty healthy in the last fiscal year, which decreased that liability. In addition to that, the net OPEB liability decreased by about $3 million and became an asset. So that all of that included in that non-current liabilities makes up that pretty large decrease right there. With that, we'll move on over here to operating revenues and expenses on the next slide. When we take a look at the operations for the fiscal year, this is where we're really including just those passenger fares in the revenues and then all of your operating expenses. So you'll see the operating revenues increased by about $2 million due to an increase in service provided, resulting in an increase in ridership during the year. And this is also seen when we take a look at expenses. That increase in expenses has that increase in salary and wages to fund that changes in operations. There was about a $9 million increase in operating expenses, really due to those salaries. But there was also an increase in the infrastructure program payments of about $5 million when compared to the prior year. When we take a look at the non-operating information on the next slide, you can see this is where we have a pretty significant decrease when we're taking a look at that federal maintenance grants, and that's really that COVID funding go away. So you can see that non-operating activity in total decreased by about $57 million, and $56 million of that relates to the COVID grants being spent fully in the prior fiscal year. However, we do see down in capital grant revenue activity that increased from about $20 million in the prior year to about $47 million, and that really reflects those grants that you received for the buses, that money coming in to fund those bus purchases. So that's where that falls through there. So in the end, for fiscal year 24, you did end up with an increase of about $38 million, a little bit less than the prior 2 years, really due to that decrease in the COVID funding as that has gone away over time. So here's where we'll talk a little bit about just some changes year over year when we take a look at the accounting. I'll stop here for a second and talk a little bit about GASB 101 compensated absences. High level, in previous years, you would record a liability for this based on what was going to be paid out upon termination. The new standard requires management to take a look at your policies and procedures and not only know what they expect to be paid out upon termination or when an employee leaves, but also what they think will be reasonably used from what has been accrued, which is a shift in policy. So a lot of people have earned time that they're going to use as time. And previously that was not included in the liability because the standard only required what would be paid out upon separation and termination. So management had to spend quite a bit of time with HR to understand how much time was actually used from what people had accrued or what was lost, and an adjustment was made to include that in the liability for the fiscal year. So when we take a look, one of our required communications to this committee is the important estimates that we take a look at as we go through the audit process. So you can see here, these are some of the high-level ones, fair value of investment securities. We spent some time to make sure that all of your investments are valued as of the end of your fiscal year, 12/31, and that's the date, and we had no exceptions as we went through that process. We're also looking to make sure your useful lives of capital assets is reasonable, to make sure your depreciation expense is reasonable, as well as understanding those assumptions around pension and post-retirement obligations. Our next slide talks a little bit about some other required communications. You had no corrected misstatements for this fiscal year, and what that means is as we went through our audit process, there was nothing that we identified that as an audit adjustment needed to be changed. So all of the amounts that management presented were materially correct. We did have a few uncorrected misstatements. None of these we consider material or an issue or a problem. For example, implementation of GASB 101 here. There was a change of that increase in the liability of about $1.3 million. When we look at that in total, management decided it was not worth it to restate all of your financial statements and redo your prior year numbers, but we could run it through expense in the current year. And we agree with that assessment. And when you're looking at materiality of your overall financial statements to a 1.3 million adjustment for the current year, that makes sense. So these are a few of those items where we take a look and understand whether or not there will be a material impact. It would change the users. And here, as you can see, most of these net out to almost a $0 offset when taken in total. We had no significant issues as we went through the process of the audit this year, working with management. Everything was provided timely and quickly, and there was no items that we were not provided, as well as no one who we said we were not able to talk to or meet with as we went through our questions and process. On our next slide here, I feel like this is really the most important part of the audit. This is really the culmination of all of the activities. This is the opinion. This is where we get to the most important part. And it's really giving us an unmodified or clean opinion on your financial statements, saying that all of the amounts are materially correct. We have no issues. We have no qualifications. There was nothing that we could not obtain assurance on as we went through. As you can see, we do reference 2024 and 2023. They are comparative financial statements, so our opinion does cover both fiscal years. The good news here is in the prior year, we had both a material weakness and a significant deficiency as we went through the process. Material weakness related to grant and sales tax revenue and how they were reported, and a significant deficiency related to grant reporting not occurring timely. As part of the audit, we follow up on these findings and we do testing on these, and we are not repeating them in the current year. Everything was corrected and improved, and we actually have no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies to report. So again, no findings for this fiscal year, which really means that everything we had identified in the prior year was taken care of, and nothing new that was identified throughout our testing. So congratulations on that. That means a lot of hard work went in by a lot of people to get to that point. And one of my last items here is we're always evaluating for independence. We do no other work for SORTA as we go through the process, so we have no independent conflicts as being auditors. So I know that is a lot of information from beginning to end with the audit. So I will just stop there and see if there's any questions that I can answer.
Thank you.
What was the ranking of the audit?
It is an unmodified opinion, which is really the top that you can get. So no findings, unqualified opinion, that's really the best audit that you can get, yes.
All right, well, thank you, Christine, so much for that. I know you couldn't wait to deliver that this bright early morning.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could I make a remark before we move on to
absolutely.
the next agenda item? I just wanted to thank Crow and all of their hard work. It's a lot of hours and weeks here in SORTA doing their due diligence. And the quality of the audit's directly related to the quality of the work that happens every day. Julie Beard and the accounting team here at SORTA do an incredible job. And then the leadership of Tim Walker, as CFO. As you can see, continuous improvement is the goal, and appreciate all of them and their hard work and the entire finance team.
I definitely second that. Definitely, and there'll be another one next year, so you'll get started in November of this year to head out the next one. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much for that, Miss Christine.
Thank you.
We've got some action items. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. We've got some action items. We have an approval of the 2026 grant application resolution. Mr. Walker, if you would just give us some background on this, please.
Yeah, this is just a standard request that we have that needs the committee approval and board approval. And this just allows us to go out and execute grants for the next fiscal year. So it's a standard that is an annual type of an approval.
And as evidenced by that last presentation, we need all the grants we can get post-COVID. And so I know that this would be a voice vote, right? Okay. All those in favor of, I'm sorry, I need a motion.
You're making a motion?
I'll move for approval. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, and that moves forward. Next, we have investment of funds report for approval. Mr. Walker?
Thank you, Ms. Clark. We'll go through these quickly. We have 2 months to go through. Last month, we didn't cover the April financials, April investment report. Here is the April figures. You can see the yields have remained constant from prior periods. Balances remaining somewhat consistent. Next page, Natalie. And here's the most current month's information. Yields, again, are very similar. The only thing I want to highlight here is that it was a good, as Ms. Torres mentioned earlier, the MTIF. So we had a nice distribution month in May of $3.2 million. But again, yields have remained flat and constant from month to month. And the balances continue to, in total, increase a little bit each month. Any questions?
All right.
Thank you.
So 18 million provided by operations?
So that primarily, Mr. Etheridge, is we on a monthly basis record grant revenue. A large part of that, most of that, is actually the cash coming in. So we had some cash coming in for grant revenue, and that was it. Thank you.
Excellent.
Large enough dollar value, I thought I'd just ask.
I move for approval of the investment funds report.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, we'll move forward with that. Are there any new business items to come before the committee? All right, then we'll go into, we'll adjourn at 9:08, and I'm assuming we'll probably roll right into planning and ops. Thank you. Oh, did you have something?
No, I was going to roll right into planning and ops.
All right, awesome.
I'm rolling.
rolling.
Let's keep moving. I'm going to, since we've already done the Pledge of Allegiance for the Finance Committee, we'll move past that. Has everyone had the time to review the minutes from the previous meeting?
Yes.
So I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We're going to move right into the good news. John, am I handing that over to you?
All right, thank you, sir. Good morning, all. Let's start with recognizing great work by Metro employees, our April Silver Wheel Award winners. Adrian, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
Started with our leadership recipient, Eric Stevens. He's an IT program manager, and Eric is being recognized for his work he did to resolve some issues with our APCs as it relates to routing and supporting our daily ticketing. And he also had other projects he had to work on at the same time, but kept things organized, stayed dedicated and professional through all of that because it was a heavy lift for him. So congratulations to Eric. Next, we have Kenya Gardner. Kenya is an operations training specialist, and Kenya actually does most of her work with the Access and Metro Now population. And she has, over the last, call it 18 months, probably trained 75% of the 150 drivers we've hired through Access in that time period. And she continues to be a coach and a mentor and just a cheerleader for those new drivers as they start their careers with Metro. So we appreciate Kenya and her efforts there. Next, we have Mari Darty. Mari is a Queens Gate operator, and he is a 20-year employee. And Mari is being recognized for the great customer service he provides and his on-time performance of 97.6% in the month of April. So congratulations to Mari. Mari is always willing to step up and come in and do extra work and shifts as needed by management. So we again recognize and thank Mari for his work. Next, we have Queensgate maintenance employee Daniel Elfers. Daniel, as his manager put in quotes, his work ethic is unmatched. He stays busy. He does a phenomenal job with the work that he does as a maintenance employee. Extremely dependable. And Daniel is actually the individual that they send apprentices to when they're ready for that apprentice to start to elevate his work and skill level to the next level. Dan is the point of contact for that, and he works with the apprentices to help them get to the next level in their work career. And then we have Bond Hill Operator of the Month, Jeremiah Worthen. Jeremiah is also being recognized for his great customer service and the work he does getting our customers to and fro. He's got an on-time performance of 98.2%. And again, he focuses heavily on his customers, has received no customer complaints, and just is a great employee and colleague as recognized by management. And then we have Bond Hill Maintenance Employee of the Month, Valencia Wilson. Valencia is a storekeeper employee, and Valencia is being recognized for her proactive approach and her exceptional dependability as needed, and she demonstrates great teamwork and collaboration and always willing to help others and step up and do additional shifts as needed. And then finally, we have Access employee Marcus Nelson, who is a driver for us with Access. And he is just known for his willingness and caring and providing great customer service to our customers in our Access division. He works a lot on his days off. His attitude is always positive, and he is always willing to help and help other employees as needed. So congratulations to the April Silver Wheel winners.
Thank you, Adrian. Certainly a group of stars there, no doubt. Let's also take a second to look back and thank again those who are making this happen, the launch of the Easy Connect pilot, the one-seat regional paratransit ride, the first of its kind in the nation. This represents a critical advancement for cross-jurisdictional mobility, for accessible transit integration for those who need it most. Again, thank you to everybody. Thanks for the successful launch. We are very much looking forward to the fruits of this pilot. On the next slide there, I had to do a double take. Is that the same picture? We go back and forth. They're pretty close, but also another side note, this is not a doctored picture. It can be sunny in Cincinnati. When you have outdoor events, it can happen. We've got proof right here. So thanks again and congratulations to everybody on the successful launch of Metro Now Zone 3 at the Forest Park Kroger. We had a great event there with Commissioner Sumero Dumas, as well as Forest Park Mayor Aaron Brown and representatives of Kroger speaking to the critical need that Metro Now will serve in this community in such dire need of increased public transit. Thank you to the community there for letting us and welcoming us in our expansion of the Metro Now program in Forest Park.
I just want to note, it was great seeing Kroger representatives there, and they were thankful and excited about the service we're running.
Certainly a critical partner when you consider the frequency and the high-ranking nature of Metro Now customers accessing grocery stores, right? What that means from a quality of life standpoint, certainly a very important partner. Bill, if you could talk about our efforts to celebrate and recognize safety at Metro during our Safety Month, June.
Thank you, John. We celebrate safety. This is across the nation for the transit industry. It's National Transit Safety Month, the month of June. We celebrate this all month long because safety is the most important thing that we do. We had picnics with employees at Access, Bond Hill, and Queensgate, our maintenance and transportation employees. We've spent the month doing special campaigns and messaging with our employees, and then, of course, celebrating our success. That culminates this coming Monday when we will have our annual safety luncheon, where we will celebrate another 2 million miler. Robert Waters out of the Bond Hill division will receive his 2 million mile award, which essentially means 30 years of driving without a preventable accident. So that's always exciting, and so it's a lot of fun, but it's the most important thing we do too. So June is Safety Month.
All right, thank you, Bill. Let's also take time to recognize and congratulate Service Planner 3, Nick Keeling. Nick was recently accepted into APTA's Emerging Leaders Program, and he's in the room. Nick, yeah. This program provides transit professionals with knowledge, skills, and networks for career advancement. So certainly as we continue to invest in our employees, Nick and his efforts here represents that investment, that encouragement. So Nick, congratulations on joining the program, and sorry for all the work that it's going to bring on top of your already busy plate being part of the program. But good luck in your contributions to it, and we're very much looking forward to what you learn in the program. Thank you.
He dresses like this every day.
Thank you. You threw me off there, Mark. That's good. Let's also speak about another part of Metro's culture, our partnership with Adopt a Class. We just finished our third academic year, and this group got together at Adopt a Class's annual celebration breakfast, recognizing outstanding mentor teams and organizations, school personnel, teachers of the year, and such. At Metro, we joined, as I said, 3 academic years ago, and in our first year, we won their Growth Award for in year 1, starting with 5 Adopt a Class teams. We are now up to 7 teams. It has become very much an ingrained part of our culture, giving back to the community, teaching kids about career advancement opportunities, certainly in the transportation industry. But you can't talk Adopt a Class without recognizing the great work that Natalie Krusling does to champion this program throughout the organization, coordinating the mentors and team leads, field trips that we host in the spring with the students. When we launched this initiative a few years ago, one big question was who can take this on? Who's the right fit for the Adopt a Class program? That was a short list. It's Natalie. She's still on it. She's still the top of it. So thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
Turn it over to Brandy for some summer outreach activity info.
Good morning, everyone. It is summer in Cincinnati, which means it is parade and festival season, and our outreach team is out and about nearly every day. On the screen, just a snapshot of just a few of the events that will be at this summer that we would love to see you stop by and say hello or join us in the parade, including the Juneteenth Black Party on June 14th. We'll be at the Touch a Truck event in Springfield Township. So if you have some little ones who want to climb on board the bus and even get a chance to sit in the driver's seat and honk the horn, the kids will really love that. Be sure to bring them by. Of course, we'll be at the Pride Parade, the Northside Parade on the 4th of July, and the Great Parks Outdoor Expo. So lots of fun things happening, and look for Metro at an event near you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for the good news, and congratulations to all of our award winners for the month. I think we're going to roll right into the ridership and service quality reports. I think I'm starting. Do I see Steve Anderson over there? Steve, am I starting with you? Mr. Anderson, you're up.
Good morning, committee. Filling in for Khaled. Who knows where he is right now? Thailand, Malaysia.
Where in the world is Khaled Shamout?
You name it. Where in the world is Khaled Shamout? And he left me with a great month. Let's kick it off with fixed route ridership. We are ahead for the year at 1.4% if you take our total year to date. That's the lead card, but we still have some work to do in fixed route service. We're going to dig deep to find out how we can squeeze every bit of juice out of that stone because we're down 10% from budget. Next slide. Access remained pretty flat. 15,491 Souls Road access in May 2025 compared to about 100 more that we budgeted, 0.7. We'll take it, but as we begin to add more service, we'll add more paratransit users due to our expanding geography with the fixed route service. So be on the lookout for that. We dropped our new Metro Now zone in Forest Park Pleasant Run in June. Expect those numbers to crescend up. We're about flat right now for May, and we'll continue to do our regression analysis to build that metric up in terms of the productivity that you'll see in a couple slides from now, which is actually this slide because we've condensed it. Productivity took a slight dip across all fronts in May. You have CPS kind of winding down on local service. They do also ride the express service. They start to kind of tamper down their ridership around the middle of May. Again, we'll continue to drill down and look at this on the micro level at the bus stop level. to make sure we're doing everything we need to do to provide quality and useful service. And with that, I can turn it over to Bill Sproul. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. We'll walk through the service quality portion of the report. We start with on-time performance for the fixed route system. Very consistent here. May was 76.6, which is actually what our year-to-date is. So about as consistent as you can get. There are a couple things here. We just talked about really a very important piece of on-time performance, and that is our safety first push. Since the end of 2023, we've really been pushing the importance of safety with our employees to make sure that that's our first priority. I'm proud to say that those efforts have been fantastic. We've actually reduced our preventable accidents by almost 50% since the end of 2023, halfway through 2025. What that means is we're encouraging and supporting our operators to make sure that safety is first. That has a little bit of a factor on-time performance. The other piece, and that's one that we talk about each month, half of our operators now have been here less than 5 years. And so that is a fantastic opportunity for us as we reinvent Metro with a brand new workforce that has not been here for a very long period of time and maybe have some of those old habits and traditions. On the flip side of that, those operators are about 8% below on-time performance compared to the other operators. So we talked about it when I first got here, that breaking in period for a new employee, and on-time performance is a big piece of that. So we continue to work on that, and that will remain an important priority for us as we go forward. Next slide. Access on-time performance is strong and is ticking up. We're excited about that, and we continue to work hard on that. Metro Now on-time performance is the same. We continue to be very strong in that area, and again, we have Zone 3 coming on board. It's been in place now for a little over a week, and we'll continue to monitor that and make sure that we're successful in Zone 3 as well. Fixed route missed trips is a really good story for us. I say it's a good story. We were above goal, above our target here. But we're actually 3% below our staffing level on fixed route operators right now. That's lower than we've been in quite some time. But through a lot of different tools and paying attention and focusing on the details, we've really been able to keep the missed trips down to a minimum as we go forward. Customer service also reflects the safety-first culture and reflects our concentration on improving this process. We've improved the timeliness, the responsiveness, the amount of videos that get reviewed on a monthly and daily basis. So, and you can see that in the success here with customer service. Fixed route miles between mechanical service interruptions continues to be a project for us. This is more of a long-term project, our initiative in the maintenance department to improve our reliability and our effectiveness. I will say that we did a peer comparison with 5 other systems, Milwaukee, Toledo, Louisville, Nashville, and we were actually better than 4 of those 5 peer systems when we looked at this specific KPI. So we're not resting on our laurels. We know we've got a ways to go, but we continue to work hard on this to improve our reliability.
Any questions for Mr. Anderson or Mr. Sproul?
In the customer service, you only showed 25. There was no reporting of it in 24.
So we go back to January of 25, yeah. January of 24.
Correct. This is a KPI that we weren't traditionally reporting back in 2023 and 2022.
Right.
And so we monitored the KPI for about a year internally before we started reporting it, just to make sure that the data was consistent and reliable. And so this is a report that's relatively new to the board, and the data has only been collected in this format since January of 24.
Yeah, originally we were reporting at just the sheer total number of complaints. But we wanted to put in a metric that measured it based upon passenger levels, so that that number should go up and down based upon ridership.
I know that we've talked about maintenance for, the past few months. There's been some things that have happened. There's been a review. Where would you see if there were, if when maintenance improves and it's more consistent and kind of hit the goals that we want, where would we see that in terms of performance?
Well, the goal is fairly aggressive on the miles between service interruptions, but I think we can get there. It's probably going to take us a year to be able to get to that number. We've got some technical issues that we're working through with the fleet, with the emissions systems, but several different pieces that we have to work on.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question to that. So you said that target of 9,200 miles, that's what you would consider aggressive, is that right?
Yes.
And so I seem to recall a conversation where we talked about like an industry standard that was even higher than that, is that right? And so like when you think about the ideal, 9,200 might be the target for now, but like what is the long-term ideal for that number? If you want to put a number on it today.
I feel like...
Or is that opening a can of worms?
Right. So if you recall, we had a third-party consultant come in and do an analysis of our maintenance system, and that resulted in a host of recommendations. Mr. Sproul and his team have reorganized the maintenance department to be able to better address essentially improving some of the workflows and some of the processes within maintenance. It's a big ship to turn, and I think in the short term, we want to get to this 9,200 figure. It's aggressive, seeing where we are and the scope of the report. I think from there we reassess. Okay. We have to get here first, and I think that that process, we can talk more about that in terms of where we are technically. But a big lift has gone to restructure the management side of things and maintenance to begin to set us up to build the processes to get closer to 9,200.
Okay, thank you.
Just too tickled to go down that road that you just opened up. So this is a little bit. So we're excellent at being celebratory and acknowledging folks that are having preventable accidents, which 30 years I wouldn't have made the list. But what does that look like when it comes to our maintenance department? What types of what surrounds that work? For acknowledgement, or what does that look like? I'm just not sure.
Well, our maintenance employees are also included in that annual safety award luncheon. Theirs is primarily more based upon employee injury because of the work that they do, but driving safety is also a part of their safety awards. But they're fully part of our safety awards program, and they are celebrated as well. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Could you go back to slide 4 real quick? It's a small point, but I just want to make sure everybody sees it. So you see Metro Now ridership. You see a bump in March, to April. And that's the budget for the third zone going into effect. So we had targeted deployment then. We're now deploying. So you should see ridership go up in June, and then probably fully maturing in July, August. So that'll be interesting to see. 4,000-5,000 more rides somewhere in there per month.
Correct. So, it's a great point. When we put the budget together back in September, October, and you all approved it in November, we had targeted April of 2025 to launch Zone 3. That launch got delayed until June, as we ramped up our head count. And we projected our head count to be at the sufficient level in June, so we delayed the launch internally until June. But what you can see from a budget perspective, we were already nipping at the ridership goals of all 3 zones in April when we still only had 2 zones operating. So Metro Now has grown faster, and the ridership has grown faster than we budgeted back in September. So to Blake's point, when you see a 3rd zone come on in June, we will most likely be well ahead of our budgeted ridership number for the remainder of the year. And we have a 4th zone budgeted for later in 2025.
Is that zone still on target time-wise?
It's on target, but it's all headcount dependent, and it's looking good right now. And as was mentioned earlier, and Adrian talked about the number of folks who have been trained in Metro Now, our projection for employees on the access and fixed route in Metro Now side is strong, and so we believe we'll be there. I think it's targeted, budgeted for maybe November, and so currently we're on target, and we'll keep you posted.
Thanks. Other ridership and service quality questions? No. All right. I want to invite Miss Iris Rowley, someone who likely needs no introduction, but I'll introduce her. I'll endeavor to introduce her. Among the many hats she wears is consultant and advisor to the city of Cincinnati, and she's here to talk to us about community outreach to youth. And before she starts, I just want to thank Ms. Rowley for her partnership and her collaboration. When we transitioned to our new way of transporting students, this organization endeavored to do it as collaboratively as possible with CPS, the city of Cincinnati, and that has meant a lot of continuous improvement conversations with Iris and folks at the city, and I'm eager to hear her presentation and have the discussion. So thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. But before I start, I need to touch Pastor, if that's okay. Now we can get started. All right, good people. My name is Iris Rowley, and today I brought my project manager with me this morning because I'm going to talk a little bit about how we got to this process, but I also want to talk about the last 30 days of school. And because Metro and SORTA have been such a great partner to us and with us in this endeavor, my history goes back longer than this. My great aunt served as a catalyst. She sat in the Metro booth on Fountain Square for 30-something years, and she was an employee here. That was my grandmother's sister. Her name was Lois Hampton. So I just want to let you know the connectivity when you are dealing with home. So just a little background about Iris Rowley. I am the wife of Jesse Rowley. We are business owners of Rose Show Awards and Graphics. We are the largest Black laser engraving business in the region. Thus is how I've been so tenacious in doing my work. And when I take you back a little bit, you'll understand why I needed to have that, as well as Pastor KZ and a whole host of other folks praying for us in the process of how we got here today in the year of 2025. So a little bit about the background and how we got here, because it was nothing new about what we were seeing at the transit sites. There was nothing new about the need of children. There had been nothing new about root causations, and there had been nothing new of and about why we were not servicing the kids to our greatest extent feasible. Had we been, we probably would have not seen what we saw. I call everything the way I see it, guys. Don't be offended. We're going to get through this, okay? So a little bit of background in our problem statement. In January 2024, I received a call from the city manager and the chief of police. We all had been talking about the uptick in violence around transit sites. We were trying to do what we could at that time through problem solving, working with CPD, working with the school system. It just seemed like much wasn't really working, and that we needed to go down just a little bit deeper to get to some root causations and build some more collaborative partners around how we could mitigate and address the issues that we saw at the transit sites. So when I got the call from the chief and the city manager about more police presence in downtown Cincinnati, I was extremely concerned. I've been at this since the year of 2001, and not as a consultant, but as a citizen, a tax-paying citizen on multiple levels, and a Black woman. I'm married to a Black man. I have 3 Black sons, and so we were concerned when it's just police and youth. We know through data, we know through our experiences, we've known what we've seen here, that when you just put police with children, things could combust. So I said to the chief and the city manager, as I always do, well, I'm going to watch the police. And that was my goal. I'd spent 24 years pouring into a system that needed change in a desperate way, and that needed it sooner or later. And I remember when we signed the collaborative agreement, when we met with the monitoring team, and they told us that it was going to take 10 years to see change. I cried. We had spent the past 18 months negotiating this deal in federal court. We had been out on the streets. You all know it was a hard fight. Cincinnati was not a good city. We had to enact a sanctions and boycott on travel and tourism. So folk were hating our guts about all the tools that we had to use in order to get to 2025. But look, we made it. We're here today. So I said, okay, I'm going to watch the police. And then when I got there, well, before I did that, I had to call my husband and ask for permission. I was sick in the bed, and I'm a good wife. It'll be 31 years, July 9th of this year. Thank goodness, right? Yeah, I deserve it. Yeah. Yeah, we deserve claps. Wives do. And so I asked my husband if I can go, and he said, well, what are you going to do? You don't feel well. So I'm going to watch the police. I actually wanted to see if what we had been working through and working on really could come to fruition in these tough times. But I also wanted to protect children. I wanted to protect children from themselves. I wanted to protect children from the adults that weren't working well for them. I wanted to protect children from the lack of love that they didn't get at home. I wanted to protect children from the ills of society. I just wanted to protect the children. So as I sat the first day, it was extremely cold. Did I say that? February 1st, 2024, it was cold. It was real cold, real cold. And I sat there and I walked, and Andy, I think I may have seen you on the first day, because, you know, Andy's a bus rider and he keeps his eyes on the landscape. And I remember just watching and looking, thinking, well, first, I haven't been down here in a long time. I haven't been on a bus. I haven't been on Government Square. And what am I truly looking at? The second day, I thought, still cold, Pastor. It was still very, very cold for your sister. So I had on 3 coats, 5 hats, 3 pairs of gloves. If you know me, I dressed in layers. And so I started to begin to dream. If I ever wanted to make children safe, how would I do it? What would I do? How do you go about it? The problem solver in me, which is the foundation of the collaborative agreement, is how we change policing in the city of Cincinnati, came forefront to my mind. So when she announced that police patrols around Government Square to address youth violence was going to go up, and we know that when we use community problem-oriented policing, and we know that community policing has improved through SARA, the scanning analysis, response, and assessment process, which is problem solving. Any negative interaction between our youth and police can derail any progress. Every time something happens, we, for some unearthly reason, go back. We go backwards and not forward. There will always be something new that we need to address. And if we were as smart as the children when they tell me, y'all not smart, Miss Iris, we would be ahead of the game. See, at that time, well, before that time, there was an interim superintendent who I could tap into and say, hey, Mr. Mott, I need so-and-so, what is going on? And not only that, but her interim deputy superintendent is my child's godfather. And so education and the connectivity to education and what we do in the community was central in my household. So all of these things that we will talk about, and all these things that we saw on Government Square are in paragraph 13 of the collaborative agreement. It talks about the 3 necessities of why we filed the federal lawsuit in the federal court. It wasn't just about police, because everything isn't about police. Why must everything be about police in the Black community? We need to stop that. That's not true. So we know, as I said earlier, when small groups of teens have caused harm and instability, highlighting the need for a comprehensive, community-driven approach. And so I went to the city manager, I think the 3rd day, and I said, okay, I'm cold, but I see some things. And I see some things that doesn't belong in your wheelhouse. I see some things that belong in CPS's wheelhouse. I saw some things that belonged in Don's wheelhouse. I saw some things that belonged in families' wheelhouses. I saw things that belonged in downtown's wheelhouse. I saw things that belong to all of us. Now, I don't know if people were ready for it, but I was going to give it to them. Our executive summary. The Government Square Initiative aims to address the multifaceted challenges faced by the youth in downtown Cincinnati, particularly at Government Square. These challenges include transportation, educational barriers, as well as raising concerns over violent crime and disorder involving youth. Our initiative, it sought to build a sustainable model through community collaboration, leveraging the strengths of local organizations, businesses, and city officials to create a safer and more supportive environment for our children. Now, before I move forward, let me say this. You guys, I don't know if it's just that maybe folks are, that's Iris Rowley and we're scared of her, but everybody that I called about this was like, okay, Iris, we gonna get it done. Or maybe finally it was the respect of the work for the past 24 years that has actually changed the face of Cincinnati. It has actually given us a chance to look at other things. When you effectively look at a system and effectively try to comprehensively figure out how it is cumbersome to multiple people and then to your city, you're able to use that process in other things. That's why we brought it here. Brief history, why we use this approach. As I stated earlier, and I could talk about the collaborative, and I know folk are like, girl, can you let that go? But I got $100 for anyone in this room that can tell me about another community-led approach to a system that has lasted almost 25 years. Anybody? I got $100. All right now. So why this approach? As I said, the Cincinnati Black United Front organized in September 2000 because 14 of the 34 downtown restaurants closed during the city's largest economic generator. The Cincinnati Music Festival, held in July of that year to avoid serving Black customers. This was Cincinnati in 2000. Then in November, on Election Day, last day of election, November 7th, 2 Black men were murdered at the hands of Cincinnati police. We called it 2 and 24. The 13th and 14th killing of unarmed Black men in 24 hours, Jeffrey Irons and Roger Owensby Jr. My business is located 2 blocks down from where Roger Owensby Jr. was murdered. And I often talk to Roger, and I talk to his family. We just lost Roger Owensby Sr. November this past year. And he was extremely instrumental in guiding work throughout the country, even though they had to move out of Cincinnati. I'm giving you all this history because I want you to understand the importance of the work and where it comes from, where it lies, the results of it. And even though we have bumpy times like we are going through right now with our police in our community, we can still see when utilizing a process, you can get great results. What was the work? What was the results? Again, the historic collaborative agreement. And why did we need it? And what is the collaboration, the collaborative on police community relations? You see, you all, we couldn't do this work if we didn't have a great working relationship with Cincinnati Police Department. The collaborative was a class action agreement between the African American community, between the Cincinnati Black United Front, the police union, and the city administration. The collaborative was merged with the Department of Justice Memorandum of Agreement on Use of Force and Accountability, and both were jointly implemented. The collaborative is now a national model on how to achieve change in police culture. Now, again, this isn't utopia, and we're not going to always get it right, but I'm here to tell you out of that darkness of that time, there's light. And this is a great process. I wanted to underscore that so that you understand why and how I come to the table. I believe in problem solving. I got a call from Andy one day, if I may, can I share this? Andy called me and said, Iris, you know, you taught me about problem solving, because I would always walk in a room and say, are we problem solving or are we knee jerking? Problem solving calls for discipline, Problem solving calls for you to remove your ego and begin to allow folk to sit at a table who you may not even talk to, but have the most utmost importance to what you're attempting to identify as a problem, because most of the time we don't even know what the problem is. Community problem-oriented policing, CPOP, SARA, this is what we've been using for the past 24 years. And the Black United Front sought to promote public safety while reducing reliance on arrests. That's my second pillar. I'm walking in the door trying to figure out how to reduce arrests while trying to reduce violence. That's not an easy task. You need great partners. You need open-minded partners. You need folk who will allow you to stretch out, right? That has community problem-oriented policing when possible. So the city has agreed several times to use CPOP, and you all will hear me say I'm a problem solver and talk to you about SARA. When the city signed the original agreement, it said all city departments, and Andy, I'm saying this to you aloud, will use SARA. So when you're sitting at the table with the city and the different departments, ask them if they're problem solving. They signed on twice, not only in the first agreement, but the refresh.
Can we make sure we're on the right slide with you?
Sure. Wait, where are you?
We are now.
Community problem-oriented policing, right there.
Perfect.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
So this has two aspects. And again, the reason why I keep going back and I keep massaging it is because, one, I don't know if you all know it, and two, I want you to feel it. And I'm bringing it to you backwards. So we're going to talk about some good measurable results, but we're going to talk about the process. I want you to understand that. Has two aspects: community engagement and police department adoption of problem solving. In a nutshell, community problem-oriented policing is evidence-based policing. It's community supportive policing, and it requires that we approach crime and disorder as problems designed through careful analysis. Careful analysis. Now, we had been seeing the data. We're at the data slide. We've been seeing the data for several years around the transit site. And I didn't know, when I first walked in, I think I met with Andy and then Daryl, and I was heated, like, why did you change the route? What happened? Nobody was telling me what was going on. I didn't know until your previous executive director, president, CEO explained to me why Metro SORTA had to change its routes. See, I'm a product of riding the school bus. I'm a product of riding school buses when CPS owned the buses, and I'm a product of riding the school buses when Metro owned the buses. So I know about riding the bus from Eastern Hills far out on the east side of town back into the heart of Avondale. So, and I believed in that. So when it changed, it posed a problem. But did we prepare for that problem? How far did we really think about that problem? Did we give the opportunity to think about what children would have to endure if we just did this? I don't know. I wasn't at the table at that time. Andy and Daryl didn't invite me, so I couldn't problem solve. But what we started to see was the youth-related calls for service in our major hotspots. And it became, this is the data slide, so y'all might want to go to the data slide. There you go. Next slide. What we saw and at these hotspots were either increases or significant decreases, but we still didn't know why. I would often ask in the room with the police department, why do we see a decrease? Why are we seeing an uptick? What is it? Police didn't have any idea. They didn't know at that time. And then we found out that we don't talk. We weren't talking. We weren't talking to the school district. We weren't talking to the court system. We weren't talking to anyone. We weren't talking to the county. We were just talking to ourselves, Pastor. We were just talking about in the room the data. But why? How do you get to why? How do you find out? So I was presented some of this data early on in 24, where you see your transit sites and you see the significant increases and you see some decrease. Then CPD, and these are all CPD's numbers. These numbers were submitted for a Herbert Goldstein Award based on the work that we did with the transit sites. So these are your transit sites as well as the top high schools. And you can see the numbers, but we don't know why. Tiani, do you know what priority school is? Is that something that's either? I don't know. I'll have to ask Dr. Hammer. So when we stop watching kids and start looking at them, next slide, please, we were able to think about what are workable solutions. Where'd you go? Go up one more. Let's see if we got it there. Andy, I may have sent you the wrong one. Go back up, sir. Go back up. One more. Down. One more. Let's see if it's in there. Oh, up one more. I'm sorry. I do want y'all to see how cold I was. No. Go back up. All right. I'm just going to go. So what are our workable solutions when using problem solving? At first, when I got there, the city had already said we're going to deploy more police. It wasn't good for me. It didn't feel good because we didn't get to actually sit down and talk about who was going to do what. So the city responded with a multidisciplinary and tiered approach. For immediate relief, the Cincinnati Police Department, CPD's Civil Disobedience Response Team, the CDRT, mobilized to monitor Government Square daily. What would this solution look like for me? What did it feel like for me? And so as I watched them when I got to Government Square, of course, police know who I am, so everybody's going to be walking a little differently. But what did that feel like, and what did that look like in the city of Cincinnati that had been practicing SARE all these years? How is it that children just see police? This can't be right. This cannot be the only answer. Plus, police and citizens share concerns that a large police presence could result in high-risk interactions and over-reliance on arrests and strained police-community relations. And you all were going to get it from Iris Rowley. The city certainly did. The city heard my voice.
Iris, I think are we on to the next slide? Is that right?
And I don't know.
Okay.
No. You could just stay right there. They
Okay.
could just look at that while I keep reading. Another response then came with the community's outreach. This was quickly formed when the city manager called and asked, and I went down the first week I saw we needed to be present. And Pastor Antiane and Chelsea can tell you I text people every day of the week saying, please meet me on Government Square, and had a few other choice words for folk who didn't show up. So we mobilized quickly because we stopped watching children and we started seeing them. And we started seeing the need. And we started to see that once our presence was valued by them, we could gain trust. We could have conversations. We could fill in the gap and just give what we call a little transit love, right? So what we started to do is during the times that we got our data from CPD when crime would spike, we set our goals to be there at that time, to be present and visible with love, some sternness. I ain't going to little cuss words sometimes, but a whole lot of love. So we were there from 2:30 to 7:30. I remember the first week, I think I stayed to 9 because kids were still outside at that time, even in very cold weather. And that was concerning. I didn't understand it. I mean, it's deep cold. I don't know about y'all, but if you stand at Government Square in the wintertime, you know it's like 10 degrees extra cold. It's colder at Government Square than it is anywhere in the city. My goodness, it was crazy. But we decided that we were going to see as many kids a day. We tried to see between 220 to 320 children based on the numbers from SORTA. Because being in the Government Square room, no one knew how many kids was on Government Square but Metro SORTA. Not the school systems, not anyone. And I found that to be concerning. But thank goodness we have good, caring people here because they didn't know the numbers. We would ask the numbers so we could get prepared. How many people do we need to have? What are we responding to? We can never get those numbers. It was Andy and the team that answered those questions. Government Square staff were trained through SARE. Additionally, they received training in de-escalation, trauma-informed care, and they also just went through some irising. I had to ensure that these were the right people that I was going to put in front of children at very critical times. I'm self the workable solutions thing. I don't know if you have it or not. I apologize, but I'll make sure that you get it, Andy. You can send it out. The last thing were our objectives. We wanted to enhance safety and stability at Government Square through community engagement and support. 2, we wanted to provide youth with access to employment, training, supportive programs, food, and other resources. 3, foster positive interactions between youth and community members, reducing negative outcomes. Being present, being present, being present was the goal. And so when we did that, what we found, now you can go back up to the first picture where I'm really cold. I look like, where's she at? There she is, right there. I think that's a sweater I got wrapped around my head, I believe, y'all. And that is Brother Z. He is one of the most dynamic community youth motivators I've seen in a very long time. And I'm a hard person to impress, right? But these people that showed up for this, that heard the call and came in dead of winter to be on Government Square, the coldest place in America, to help with children, are these folks. The next photos that you'll see are the work. I can't talk about it, I can only show you. We started to really see kids, maybe by March, they started to begin to trust us. And when you have children come up to you and say, I'm hungry, do you have any food? Can you help me eat? And you start to really see that they had the same thing on today that they had yesterday, or they're wearing the slides in February when they should have on boots, or they have on a hoodie when they should have a coat. They didn't really have any books or any bags. It looked like they were in school. When you see people driving around Government Square trying to elicit kids into activities that are not productive, that will not lead to a productive life, it becomes alarming. When you see children standing from the time you stand till you leave when it's dark, it's concerning. When you see children with their children come down, just to be part of what children call Club Square. That's what we learned. They call it Club Square. And they call it Club Square because guess what? All the police was down there. They felt safe, believe it or not. Some of them told us. Some of them told us that there's nothing to do in their community. Some of them told us that they didn't like going to school. It wasn't helpful for them. Some of them told us that their households were horrible. All the things that we know, right, y'all? This isn't new what I'm saying to you all, is it? But most and foremost, they were hungry. So I called another dear friend that Tiana knows very well, and that's Dr. Brown, who is now executive director at City Gospel Mission. And as I do with all my friends, I bully them into helping me. Pastor, tell you. And I said, Dr. Brown, get down here. I need you to see, and then tell me what you could do. So, of course, if you know anything about Dr. Brown, he came down like Herschel Cain at CSI Miami. Y'all know Herschel Cain, when he flips his jacket back, he's about to solve the... Oh, y'all don't watch CSI Miami, okay. But he's about to solve... Yeah, he's going to solve... Yeah, you know when he... Yes, see? You got that. He's going to solve it. So Dr. Brown came and he said, girl, I'm about to do this with you. So every Wednesday for 6 months, Dr. Brown and City Gospel Mission fed the children down at Government Square. Then we had other people come, like, next slide, please. You would see State Representative Danny Atkinson, community people would show up with lunches and food. People, CPD would bring us gift cards to just give to kids. And so we started to incentivize our relationship because we really didn't have the authority to do that. So we would simply say, show us your report card, show me some improvement. I got you, right? Trying to infuse a better day at school, trying to see where they wanted to go once they left school, if they were graduating, what were their plans, what did they have in mind, trying to really assist the system of learning and household to make these children have a better life. And so the Collaborative Agreement Community Care Initiative overview of a proposal for downtown that we submitted to the city manager. Then our advocates would monitor you, de-escalate any problems with you as they pass through the downtown business district, whether it was Fountain Square, Government Square, and then we had gone to Oakley Station, or even around the perimeter. The community care monitor staff included 4. It was 4 individuals every day to staff and to be managed by me. And our daily schedule was of advocates that worked Monday through Friday from 2:30 to 7:30. And you see the total number of hours, what we did. I don't know how much time, but you know I hang out with pastors, so I talk long. Y'all got to tell me if y'all want me to keep it moving. Next slide. We're going to get to the final results, and I'm going to ask Mr. Rowley to join me. The next slide, please. This picture This picture is of one of the elders I met on Government Square. One day I was walking around. Y'all see my big hat? Because it was cold. And he said to me, Iris Rowley. And I said, yes, sir. He said, can I talk to you for a second? I said, do I know you? He said, no, but I know you. I said, well, why do you know me? He said, because you're nosy. I said, well, okay. He said, but you're nosy about the right thing. You're nosy about the children. This gentleman's professor. He just retired, 75 years old, catches the bus every day, teaches biology and psychology, I believe. And he asked me again, how could he help? That would be the question, how can I help? And I said, what do you do? He said, I'm a professor. I said, hold tight. I brought him 3 students, y'all, a 10th grader, 11th grader, and 12th grader. And I stood back. I said, you got 5 minutes. Tell me what you can do. If you say you're a professor, prove it to me. Come on in, sir. In 3 minutes and 50 seconds, he said to me, ma'am, I think he forgot my name. And he had tears in his eyes. And he said, these children can barely read. At that point, he said, I want to help you create a reading program. I was like, well, wait, we just doing basic stuff. Right now you're going a whole nother level. You want to create a reading program. But that's the type of love. As you see, Captain Henny, the guy standing in the next picture, Captain Bardoa, and our data analyst inside the CPD, Dr. Jillian Desmond. We all became an informal, formal, we promise to pull the data and look at it on a weekly basis team, and that's what we did. I could not have done this work without those individuals, keeping up with the data, ensuring that what we were doing in real time was actually penetrating just a little bit. The next slide, please, of the work. This is of your Northside station, the first photo, and I believe that we're passing out lunches and Cincinnati water and Cincinnati Red Sox. I'm gonna let Mr. Rowley tap in 1 second real quick. I just wanted to say lastly, I'm gonna go to this slide, the last slide, and then I want Mr. Rowley to give you all some number of the last 30 days. You can go to the last slide that says thank you. Did y'all see that report card on there? Wait. Who is that lady? Go on to the next picture. Who is that lady right there? You got to thank your great partners. The last slide, please. And so I want to thank everyone before I let Mr. Rowley give you the numbers. That is the picture of the celebration we did last week, I believe, to all of the volunteers, 311, CPS, security, community who stepped up, everyone, the community care people, City of Cincinnati, Metro SORTA, of course. Thank you all for coming, Andy. City Gospel Mission, we could have not done anything without City Gospel Mission, the Cincinnati Reds, UMADOP, Cincinnati Works, Interact for Health, Talbot House 3TC, Fifth Third Bank, Cincinnati Parks Foundation, the Period Project. I cannot tell you, I did not know that Period products cost as much as they do. I spent all of the first year of 2023-2024 school year buying Period products every month, every single month. So when we started to organize around the last 30 days, I knew exactly what we needed. Even up to yesterday, there were a gaggle of kids in City Hall. I opened up the doors because we still have Period products for the girls, and they were like, yes, ma'am, we need these. They are way out of our price margin. My parents can't afford it. There are a lot of girls who miss school because of it. So I just wanted to say thank you to all those great people, and then I want you all to hear the fabulous numbers that we did in the last 30 days, which was a brainchild that I woke up with. Thank you to my ancestors saying, feed the babies. I wanted to feed them every single day, but our budget didn't allow us to. But Mr. Rowley's going to tell you what we were able to do.
Hey, everybody doing today? All right. There we go. Everybody still woke with me. All right, good. You want to go down the list? Because I can tell them the whole number, so you want to composite.
Just composite.
Got you. Because this list right here, These people that you see on this list really, really helped us out tremendously. Without these people on this list, none of these things would have been positive or happened. So just by the numbers, City Gospel Mission, we had gave out over 7,500 food sacks, so that's to 6 locations and 2 high schools. So that's Oakley Transit Center, Government Square, Northside Transit Center, Glenway Crossing, Withrow, and Hughes High School. Little known fact about Hughes High School, they have the biggest, what's the proper word?
Special needs.
They had the biggest special needs of students in the city. So when we go to those schools right there at Hughes, that special needs kids are sitting out there waiting on us. They want to help, they need the food, they need the water. Got you. So at 7,500, we did a food sacks. We did over 350 cases of water in those locations. So that equals to about 12,600 bottles of water. Through the Cincinnati Reds, we gave out 250 baseball caps. We gave out 4,332 individual period products. We gave out over that bag that's going around right now. That's our swag bag. So we gave that out to all of our locations. We gave out over 800 of those swag bags to students. We keep going down to Cincinnati Works. They provided at least 100 items for bags to go to children. The Park, Cincinnati Parks Foundation, they donated over 100 bags, and they donated over 100 sacks to go on our stuff.
That's passes.
I was gonna say them for later. It was the best because that was the best thing going. It was the best thing going. Umadop, they were the ones that provided all of our information for our kids, so our resources for drug abuse, house abuse, anything like that. That's what Umadop did for us. Interact for Health made sure that we had extracurricular funds for anything that we want to do extra for the kids. So the last 2 weeks of our 30 days, we gave out prizes, we gave out gift cards, we gave out hats, T-shirts, anything I can get my hands on for these kids and they asked for, we gave it to them. 3CDC, thank you for giving us parking spots, parking passes. And last but not least, Metro and SORTA, you came through for us a whole lot. I will clap it up for them. Metro and SORTA, they gave us bus passes for the kids, for our volunteers. They gave us a space to operate at those transit locations.
And those keychains to glow up,
The glow up keychains, the journals, the pens, the whole nine. And then the thing that happened in the city with Don that was so heartbreaking, we ended up turning it around and giving it back to the kids. So we had a closet that's probably 6 by 3 full of stuff for the kids. We ended up turning that around, turning that into 400 swag bags for the kids.
That was at dawn. It was inside of a closet. It was toothbrushes, deodorant, toothpaste, body wash, tiles, washable tiles that our youth could use, especially those that are experiencing homelessness or sleeping, couch surfing throughout the city.
Yeah, you had rulers,
and
protractors.
condoms. We had condoms too.
Oh yes. We had a donation of 14,000 condoms. So if you sit, yes, I still got 8,000 left. Anybody need some? Please, pretty please, come and grab them.
Now, maybe not for you, but somebody.
And so those were the numbers that we got to accomplish. But our biggest number that we're kind of proud of is the reduce of crime and the reduce of arrests down at Government Square. That's how we started here. And that number was reduced by 50%.
Yes, it was. And those are the numbers, yes. Those were the numbers. The time frame was January 2023 to 4/13/2025. There was a significant decrease in Part 1 violent crimes around Government Square since November 2024. CBS, Central Business District, had 0 Part 1 violent crimes in December 2024 and January 2025. 1 violent crime in February, 0 in March, and 1 in April. Only 2 incidents of violent crimes, both robberies. Let's see, of the 230 total incidents in the time frame, Part 1 violent, Part 2 property, Part 3. Part 1 property accounts for 106 incidents, 44%. Part 1 violent crimes, 21 incidents, and Part 3, 46. Year-to-date, Part 1 violent crimes are down 50% when comparing 2024 to 2025, January, February, March, and April timeframe. We're not saying that what we did is unique. We're saying what we did is what needed to be done. We said what we did when we all come together, and you all see all those people standing by the Collaborative Agreement Sustainability Office inside of City Hall. When we can utilize processes from a time when it was so dark for the city of Cincinnati, and bring the light and bring the work and bring the people and bring the joy and bring it to children and their families, I think that makes us unique, and we did an awesome job. Thank you, Mr. Rowley. Any questions? I did good? Did I do good?
What can I just say? I'm sure I speak for this board and for the city of Cincinnati that we truly applaud the work that you are doing. I don't know anyone in the city of Cincinnati that is more committed to addressing the ills of our city than Iris. She know I call her the queen. I had to think of her name. She's totally committed. There's so much, even though she gave this present, there's so much that she left out.
Yes, sir. Well, excuse me, because we left out our sponsor for our T-shirts, which was Corinthian Baptist Church. I volunteered. How did we leave Corinthian off the list, Jeremiah? Dang. That's the project manager's fault, Pastor. That's
even
keep
when we
me on the
met
prayer
with,
list.
University of Cincinnati, and the report that you gave about the youth and the number of young people that are failing math and science and reading, and what needs to be done. I mean, I can go on and on with the collaborative agreement. The former Attorney General Loretta Lynch, when she was making her nationwide tour, said the first place she wanted to stop was Cincinnati, Ohio, because of the collaborative agreement. And so again, but what I'm concerned about is and thank God for this partnership with Metro, but what else do you see that Metro can do to help? Because I know also with the youth down on Government Square, there's a lot of homelessness, which never has been addressed. We talk about the food, but a lot of young people don't have a place to go. And we had talked about having a place downtown that they can go to that will be a positive center for them. And I know, Metro has, the properties downtown, but what else do you see that Metro can do to help this cause?
Thank you, Pastor, for asking that question to the board. When we were first there, I thought, why am I standing outside? Why don't we have an inside transit center, especially for kids? They need to plug in to get to the homework. They need to be able to sit down to rest their mind, to think about the next step. Maybe there could be resources available inside of this place. So I did an interview one day, Pastor, and I asked the kids, I said, so if you could redesign this space, how would you redesign it? Well, there's a young lady who attends Hughes. I do believe this is her senior year. Architect design is her thing. And she ran it down to me. I have it on video. She said, Miss Iris, I would do it like this. Can we have an inside space just to be able to do the things that we need to do on our way to the next stop? Can we not be so antagonistic to the kids? So, of course, Andy knows. I was like, so when are we going to move to the liquor store? This is problematic. If children are here, why do we have this liquor store right here? I know it serves a purpose for some people, but it should not be there enticing children. And then it draws the other element of people who are there to help entice children. So one, inside space that children can help design and be a part of so that they can see themselves continuing from school to home. And in waiting, and especially if you're a student athlete and you're leaving school later, you've not had a chance to even look at what's next, what's coming to you the next day. So an inside space definitely would help with some design from kids. The other thing I think it's needed is that and we're going to embark on this on Main Street. We have these divisions. We don't want kids, and they know it, and they feel it. Moreover, we don't want black kids. And they will tell you they do not feel wanted in downtown, but yet they come. So I asked in the questions when we were asking kids if you could find a safe space or what would you do? They said, talk with the businesses to let us in. We'll act right. We act up because they act up. Whoa. Really? And I experienced that with them. I think I shared a story in one of our Government Square meetings that I had to go in graders. And I had to, talk with some folk about the children. They are in here spending money. If they're not acting accordingly, maybe you should just say, you want to be in my business, or you want me to ask you to leave? Don't just kick them out. Don't stand at the door and stare at them as if they're not worthy to come in your door. They're just children. Get to know who they are. The other thing, Pastor, the connection with CPS. It's one of the things I'm talking to the city about. We would have not had the quality of the collaborative agreement if we had not worked with Metro SORTA. In the year of 2001, when we signed the agreement, building out CAN, there were executives on loan that the companies allowed executives to come help community with this work. It would not be this great without that type of partnership. We need that type of partnership with CPS. We need to help them figure out chronic absenteeism. We need to help them figure out how to work with kids before they leave school. We need to help them figure out how not to push the kids off the ground at the end of the day. We need to figure out how to have better quality after school programming. We need to look at the data that Pastor is talking about. If you look at the data, Taft High School has 477 kids. I think only 77 of them are proficient in reading, and that's just the base. You have a former educator, principal, administrator sitting at your table. We need to build those teams to help these systems. And lastly, my last say on this is that we've been trying to reimagine CCY. We've been trying to reimagine what CCY could help Cincinnati do. We spent the year on pulling old board documents, the bylaws, looking at who was on the board, who would serve, because I'm a CCY kid. My husband was a Renner kid. It worked. It worked for 47 years, was it? In the city of Cincinnati from 1967 to 2009, if my math is right. Could be off. I went to public school. But it was around, and it serviced over 8,000 kids a year. What are we doing? We see our youth summer program service maybe 200 to 300, then we say, oh, go get a job. By the time the job comes to the community, they're already gone. We need an agency to come back and focus just on that. That is my last thing, Pastor. And I'll say this to you all. Being on Government Square, being welcomed by most of CPD, I only had one I had to get like, we don't want this smoke. We're here to work together. Was refreshing. To see the city, the police, and community walk lockstep and say the same shared language around problem solving is amazing. That's your first step. So if we can take a first step on those other items, we may be able to plan a future where we can see positive results and help build children to become productive adults and not criminals. Did I answer your question, Pastor? Give you enough? Thank you. Any other questions?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. Just sincerely, thank you for the dedication, commitment, work that you've been doing all these years. When you started that and you were volunteering people to get involved, I said, "Oh goodness, this is gonna be good," and it always is because you lead with passion and you do not compromise, and so we certainly wouldn't be any better had you not gotten involved. So thank you so much for that, and I know that collectively, in terms of however we can support and in this new phase that we're moving into and the things that are happening downtown, we're certainly going to be supportive and promote those causes that you are so passionate about. So thank you so much. You and Mr. Rowley Sr. and young Mr. Rowley.
Thank you. Thank you. We're following you, sister. We are following you. Any other questions?
I just want to say thank you. I know we're short of time, but I just want to reinforce everything that you have done. In particularly, we as a region work in silos, and this is the first time that I've seen a variety of organizations in different industries, community come together, and that's because of you are a great connector. and then and you connect around a common vision and mission, and at the end of the day, to get results. So less crime in our city, more love for our kids, and then more services for our community. And I deeply appreciate all the work that the Rowley family has led. So thank you deeply.
Thank you, sister. We're following you.
Seconded and thirded by many of us, I would imagine. I want to give Andy and team a chance to say something, but before we do that, I also, it feels like the start of summer, but really we're going to be at the beginning of the school year very quickly. And I would like for this committee, before the school year starts, to have a conversation about our plan for the beginning of next school year. I'll defer to the staff on whether that should be next month or the month after, but I don't want to lose sight of the work that's happening here and make sure that we're continuing to elevate some of these metrics to the board level so that we can help continue to drive that continuous improvement.
It's amazing.
Andy.
Yeah, thank you, Pete. I think it was said very eloquently by Ms. Amat that we operate in silos until Iris walks into the room, and it's been very beneficial to all of us. I think this picture really sums it up. You see a Metro road supervisor, you see police, you see 311, you see community volunteers. We're honored to be part of that partnership.
You see Andy way in the back.
Yeah,
That's Andy in the back.
I'm that little guy in the back there.
This lady right here, I think she's one of your bus drivers, and she is with child.
Mm-hmm.
She's with child, and when she walked in the door, I was like, "Hey, back to us." She was like, "Y'all, we work together." So I just wanted to point her out.
And one of the things that came out of this discussion that we kept going back to is that these kids are everybody's kids. These are our kids, and we have a shared responsibility. So it's been a journey, and I just underlined the second well-made point by Mr. Metz is that we're not done. This is continuous improvement. Meetings are happening right now in preparation for next school year. We're working with CPS. We're working with our teams at the city and Iris and others to refine, to look at the data. And the SARA model says that you don't stop. It's iterative.
You don't stop.
So we're engaged in this work, and we'll be happy to report out. And thank you for the partnership.
Oh,
and
thank
the
you.
staff at Metro, as you can see, fully bought into making safe places and engaging with our community in a very positive way. So appreciate Bill and his team and everybody and all the departments who help very much with this cause.
We are grateful that you heard our voices this morning, grateful for the partnership, and just grateful that Cincinnati is Cincinnati. We need to really pat ourselves on the back, give ourselves some grace, and then embrace Sarah some more, because it's coming. Thank you all.
Thank you for coming. All right, we have a couple other items on the agenda. Sorry. The first is a proposed resolution approving the appointment of Andy to replace Daryl on the OKI board. Andy, by the way, congratulations. This is your first committee meeting as CEO. We made it mostly through the substance of the meeting, but with that new role comes a new appointment to the OKI board, and I would move approval of this resolution.
Second.
Motion properly moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And then I will pass it over to John for the matrix.
Thank you, Pete. We have one procurement action item before the board today. This is for facility security camera system upgrades. This is a sole source award with our current provider, with Security 101 Ohio LLC. This is for the purchase and installation of additional cameras on our facilities. You'll see there the amount of the original contract, the original 5-year contract award, just north of $1 million. This is a $98,000 modification with this vendor to essentially expand our use of cameras at our facilities. So as we continue to upgrade our facilities, our technologies, essentially we're finding gaps in coverage and view of said cameras. So this would bring Queensgate and access up to snuff, and then possible expansion of the camera systems at Bond Hill as well. So seeking the board's approval for this contract modification.
Any questions for Mr. Ravasio? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the contract.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. We will move both those items without objection to the consent agenda for next week's meeting. That's all of our regularly scheduled business. Is there any new business? Hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
All right, Sarah, good.